The Phoenix Story. Preface. Knowing about mass surveillance made people fearfully yet compliant. NSA surveillance, like many things, was conducted over the internet, and through pretty good privacy PGP encryption. Clarence first leaked information about the cell phone app Wickr, famous for being used by the government, law enforcement, and military agencies to have secure conversations. Clarence was radicalizing democratization by exposing secret documents and practices that affected the whole world. Thuggish and illicit behavior from government officials seemed okay when conducted in secrecy. "Wake me up," thought Clarence Sedgwick. He gasped and heard a high-pitched scream. His sister Esmeralda lay sprawled on her back on the sidewalk. Blood pooled out only to be washed away by the rain. Clarence stood there but found himself frozen and began to cry softly. Chicago had notoriety for gang problems. Watching his friends drop out of school and turn to drugs and violence gave him an interest in self-defense when his sister was taken away from him by thugs, and he wanted change. The spotter helped Clarence reposition a barbell with a loud clank. "Good job. I have to say I'm impressed. Call it a day?" "Okay with me." Everything he wanted was at the gym. Mixed martial arts, competitions, and cardio and weight training. Clarence blended into the crowd, had a chiseled physique, and could be intimidating when he needed to. He caught the attention of competitors at the gym, who would always ask for a shot at a gym fight. Some were current and ex-cops. "They're corrupt and brutes," snarked Kyle Newhouse over the phone. Clarence met Kyle in an internet forum about electronics. Weirdly enough, they maintained their friendship without ever meeting in person. They just talked online and over the phone. Distance kept them apart. Kyle was in London, UK, and Clarence in Chicago, Illinois. Their hobbies became passions, and soon they were programming. Their pen pal sort of friendship became mutually symbiotic as they held similar sympathies toward life. They would talk for hours on chat boards about their day plans or their latest projects. Clarence often complained to his overseas friend that law enforcement was failing to address gang activity. He planned to avenge his sister's death by tracking down gang members. Both cohorts were single and lived alone. They were in their early 30s and lost trust of authority figures. This distrust would blossom into a struggle to keep the world from falling apart. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it," Clarence replied. Kyle laughed briefly and cleared his throat. "Hey, can I run something by you? I pulled this mugshot and I found the gang. Their headquarters are on the edge of town. Need some punching bags?" "We gotta do this the right way, strategically, said Clarence. "I agree. This is not the time to mess around," replied Kyle. The mission was daunting, the war on gangs. Clarence was going to be on the front line, and Kyle devised a drone to monitor the operation from the sky. Clarence handcrafted temporary gang tattoos to pass himself off as a gang member. The gang found responsible for Esmeralda's passing was known as La Raza, and was known to be extremely violent. While Kyle practiced flying the drone, Clarence upped his training regimen and started talking to some contacts in the gang. He hung out in a downtown alley where a hodgepodge of criminals, gangs, and hitmen would frequent. One day, Clarence met a member of La Raza nicknamed Toro. He weighed 280 pounds, could squat twice that, and loved street food. Toro was quick to pat Clarence down, making sure he didn't have a wire or weapons. "You can call me Toro, and who are you?" "Clarence, I spent some time with La Raza running through Tijuana." "Oh yeah? I didn't know we went out there," he said as he chomped down on a Philly cheesesteak. "Yeah, I was supposed to keep it on the down low. I'd appreciate it if you'd do the same. I'm tired of jumping hoops. I was flipping enough product to land myself a comfy bed in SoCal. Then Border Patrol comes knocking, and guess what? I'm sold out and now I'm here to lick my wounds. Talk about unfair. That was the best meal we had. What gives, said Clarence. Clarence was nervous about his memorized cover story until Toro let out a loud guffaw with his mouth full of food. He seemed to take the bait. He smiled briefly and said, "No shit. Man, what I would do if I were you. I guess if you're here, we gotta induct you. Come by the house. Look for the 3 windows lit up on the top story. It's on the industrial zone. Can't wait, homie. It was late when the heist began, about 2200 hours, and every person in the area was in a gang, except Clarence. He really didn't know what he planned to do, and that was if he was successful in finding his sister's killers. Bringing them in ran the risk of him getting killed, while taking matters into his own hands had its drawbacks. There wasn't a contingency plan in place besides escaping the dilapidated ghetto warehouse. Clarence made his way down the short street to an old brick building and noticed 3 windows lit up on the top story, his cue for the right place, and gangsters littered the yard. Some puffed on cigarettes and joints, while others eyed him menacingly, giving Clarence an instigative stare down. Yo, S.A., this place is closed. Hi, my name is Clarence. I'm here for induction. Give me a sec. The gangster grudgingly put out his cigarette and loped back inside and shut the door. There was a strained silence as the motley crew just looked at him. Well, don't everyone talk at once now, said Clarence. The front door opened again and out stepped his greeter, who beckoned him inside. It was trashed inside, the windows were broken, and alcohol bottles were piled up everywhere. The crowd made their way upstairs and were met with 2 armed guards in front of giant double doors. The guards nodded, opened the doors, and stepped to the side. Kyle insisted that Clarence wear an earpiece. However, Clarence could not talk back because that would give him away. After a brief crackle through his ear, Kyle's voice came through the miniature earpiece. Clarence, hey, listen, I see you now. Just stay in control and don't let them push you around. I'll keep you posted. Kyle, out. Clarence, started Suleiman La Raza's kingpin. Oh, Clarence, my men say you are here to be inducted into La Raza, but I am having trouble believing you. You see this? He got up from behind his desk and strode over to Clarence. Suleiman ripped off a temporary teardrop tattoo from Clarence's face. Immediately, the guards drew their weapons and took aim at the infiltrator. He was trapped. The door was blocked, and the window was too high to jump from. Kyle started through the earpiece. Oh God, let's get you out of there. I'll call 911. Sarah worked first as an analyst and then in clandestine service for the CIA. She followed political targets for people who would potentially threaten the government, and she would notice growing political dissidence in this duo's vision. She knew about Clarence losing his sister. She thought that he just couldn't let go. Sarah threw off her headset. I'm going in. Her accomplice Sam nodded and said, Sarah, you've got to ask yourself, with how aggressive this gang is it even worth it? Not to mention police will be here in 6 minutes. I'll be okay. We have to stop them. We need Clarence, replied Sarah. Sarah grabbed her gear and rolled open the white van door. She closed it and took off towards the house. First, she threw a grappling hook through the 3rd-story window and was at the windowsill in 5 seconds, and dropped a flashbang grenade inside. Sarah leapt into the room while the gang was disoriented and grabbed Clarence, who barely let out a "Who are you?" before she plunged a hypodermic needle containing a knockout serum into his neck. His legs came out from under him, and he dropped like a sack of rocks into her arms. Present day. I love you, murmured Esmeralda. Clarence snapped out of a deep sleep and awoke chained to a metal table. A one-way window stretched across one wall. There was a small camera dome in the corner. He examined the handcuffs connecting him to the table and groaned. Clarence's thoughts were racing. He thought he remembered the room, as though he was interrogating suspects himself here. Until things got out of control in Clarence's world, he would play a part in clandestine operations overseas, combating extremist and terrorist activity. He was a decorated American hero. At first obedient of his government, Clarence saw things starting to waver when he was tasked with developing a computer program used to track down the most wanted. The program was named X-Keyscore. It was an alright system, but it led to the current reality where Big Brother utilizes mass surveillance techniques. Clarence saw a serious invasion of privacy, a hidden dystopia. You are being watched, innocent or not. Clarence didn't mind showing his gung-ho side occasionally, but he also didn't want to wreak havoc. He hosted a worldwide hackathon on the darknet, an encrypted internet, and it gained the attention of the world's best hackers, good or bad. Clarence already had the hardware. A microscopic radio antenna transmitted a program on a certain frequency. After the hackathon, a program named Phoenix was put together. It was designed to be programmed to the antenna. If it sensed a risk of being compromised, it would self-replicate. This rebirthing effect not only gave the program its name, Phoenix, but it played a large part in its overall success in leaking highly classified information about its key score and details about the United States manifesto behind mass surveillance. The memories of becoming a whistleblower came flooding back to him while he sat, stunned. The news stories labeled Clarence brave and patriotic, but he was also denounced as a traitor. A knock came at the door. An older, hawkish-looking man with caramel-colored skin introduced himself. "Hi, my name is Sam. You might remember me. May I come in?" Clarence squinted at him and said, "Whatever you're looking for, I can't help you." "And why is that?" "I don't know. What do you want?" Sam approached Clarence, got inches from his face. "Do you know how much trouble you're in?" he said seriously. "Oh, I thought I was the good guy here. What makes you say I'm in trouble?" The interrogator threw down a copy of a local newspaper onto the table. The title of an article read, "The Phoenix Story." "See this? I'm asking the questions. Now you tell me, were you responsible for this?" "I don't know what you're talking about." After one of the most prolific leaks in U.S. intelligence history, you really think what you did comes without consequences?" Sam yelled, irate beyond measure. Suddenly, the door opened and another interrogator walked in. He whispered something to Sam, and Sam stormed out of the room. The officer said, "Do you know why you're here?" Clarence didn't reply. "Mr. Sedgwick, you are being interrogated for leaking classified information, deviating from national security directives, and theft of government property. 3 felonies. I really just couldn't avoid it. What's done is done. I prevented the government from playing God, and I gave people the truth." The officer carefully hid his handcuff key into Clarence's hands. The captive unlocked the handcuffs as the officer left the room. Left with his thoughts for a time, he considered what would happen if he made even the slightest mistake in escaping. He could see years in federal prison, or worse. Shuddering at the thought, he decided it was worth it. Just then, Sam came back through the door. "You're a hard nut to crack, Sedgwick. I gotta hand it to you." He was cut off by an uppercut that knocked him unconscious. Clarence laid him down gently on the floor, slunk through the doorway, and searched for his locker. The fire alarms were on. He found his cell phone, connected it to Sam's phone, and called Sarah on an encrypted phone line. "Hello?" "Hi, we need to meet," replied Clarence. "Meet me in my office, 11 a.m., 251205. It's on Kildare Street." Sarah hung up. He immediately recognized the classic alphanumeric cipher. It was a warning. The number spelled KYLE, and Kildare was a code for distress. Clarence made his way through the myriad of hallways and found himself at the nearest bus stop. Realizing he had no money, he was about to start walking when Sarah pulled up in a black Mercedes sedan. "Get in." The tires screeched as the two peeled away. They got to a nature park overlooking a beautiful sunset. Usually the epitome of stoic, this time Sarah was the one with tears rolling down her face. "I have to tell you something." "What?" "It's Kyle's mission," she said as she was dabbing her eyes with a Kleenex and seemed to be done crying. "After I recruited you, the night you and he tried to infiltrate La Raza, Kyle joined MI6. After you started running and eluding capture, the aftermath was insane. Clarence, you're on a Five Eyes blacklist. It's a joint MI6-CIA mission. It's Kyle. He was last to look for and assassinate you." You unraveled quite a tangled web. It all started with Program Psycho, They tried to erase your memory, and they kind of succeeded. Wondering whether it was from him leaking documents or avenging Esmeralda's untimely passing, he knew he could not afford to stay in the same place for long. He thought that maybe he could cover his trail and pick up a job at a restaurant or somewhere. Does this thing have anything to do with me hunting down Suleiman? Sarah noticed the pause in conversation. What are you asking, Clarence? Like I have the oversight to even begin to exonerate you. But believe me, I am behind you somehow. I'm risking my entire career and then some for you. You're sworn to keep secrets, and that's not what you're doing. Should I be worried, he asked. Clarence, she sighed and pinched the bridge of her nose, frustrated. The last thing that's going to happen is them calling off the chase. Remember your training. No one can take that away from you. Forget the memories of Psycho. Everyone involved deserves justice. But here, take this, and quickly, I think I see headlights. She held out a manila envelope taped shut. What's this? He opened the envelope and poured the contents onto his lap. There were 5 passports, $10,000 cash in various currencies, a motorcycle key, a baseball cap, a fake mustache, a small electronic device, Armani sunglasses, documents about the X-Keys Corp program, and 2 plane tickets leaving in 4 hours to Costa Rica. He remembered it as the perfect place for a political asylum. There he would have diplomatic immunity. There no one could chase him. He thought to himself, how could I forget about Costa Rica? She really is ingenious. Why 2 tickets, he asked. I need to leave now, she said. What's the device for? And why 2 tickets? Don't tell me. No, you should... Clarence, it's the only way. That's an electromagnetic pulse EMP device. And I'm going with you. Just get out. The motorcycle's in the trees behind us. I'll meet you at the terminal. Go now. She almost pushed him out the door, and he scrambled to his feet, envelope in hand. He vanished into the dark forest, and Sarah sped away as headlights swept across the scene. Clarence lay down in some ferns and peeked through the leaves. Dang, they were cops, all right. Black undercover Dodge Chargers. Their spotlights swiveled around and narrowly missed him. He put his face down. It took a while to find the Ducati Diavel motorcycle in the dark. He put on the fake mustache and hat. He waited until the police were gone and started the motorcycle. Clarence revved the engine up on the pavement. Hi! Clarence wobbled as the onboard computer took him by surprise. Aftermarket installations buttons located on the handlebar. Red, nitrous oxide. Blue, shield. Please ride responsibly. Thanks. Clarence rolled his eyes and thought of Wilbur in research and development. He was at least thankful for the souped-up getaway vehicle, and he'd hoped he wouldn't have to use the buttons. Red and blue lights suddenly flashed behind him. Another Charger. He hit the red button for nitrous oxide, laid flat, and roared away, going over 200 miles per hour. Clarence couldn't remember his training. It was like every mission was a reset button for his brain. Sarah was one of his trainers, and she saw the best in him. She was kind of secretly proud of what he had done, leaking the classified program. Of course she couldn't show it. She didn't want more secrets, and was remorseful for what Clarence and what he was going for. He found a staircase and rode it down to an empty basketball court, turned out the engine, and walked his motorcycle into an elevator in a high-rise apartment building. He tipped his hat to a bewildered receptionist in passing. He rode the elevator car to the roof level. The sun was rising, and he thought about his wild journey-making Phoenix. Ding. The elevator doors opened, and it was Kyle Newhouse. Where's Sarah? Kyle asked. Gotta catch me first, Clarence replied, and rode the motorcycle off the roof and went over the edge. Just before Kyle took careful aim with his Glock 19 and shot him in the right arm. Clarence pushed the blue button, and an inflatable shield ballooned up around him, then went to a military surplus store nearby. He bought QuikClot and blood clotting agent, needle nose pliers, and a new camouflage jacket. Clarence held a wad of paper towels between his teeth and shoved the pliers into the bullet wound. He found it, threw it in the trash, poured QuikClot into the open wound, and stifled screaming in pain. When he got to the airport, his chasers were gone. His departure was in 20 minutes. The valet came up to him, but he just hustled inside. Wait a sec, something's wrong, he thought. There were some people following him, and then he noticed the security cameras, usually panning, were now turning to face the wall. He pulled out the EMP device and activated it. The pill-sized unit emitted a high-pitched hum, and every electrical circuit shorted out. The emergency lights came on, and it was dark. Clarence sprinted to the terminal and saw Sarah. She took his hand, and they walked onto the plane.